wanted to say a couple of words to everyone. Primarily, of course, is thank you. Thank you so very, very much for being here to honor Dad. It's tremendously meaningful to all of us, and a tremendous surprise to him, I am sure. For he always kept saying, oh, no, no, no. You don't need to do that. I don't know. Nobody needs to come. And Susan and I would say, well, too bad. We're doing that anyway. So I am sure from wherever and however it happens that you find from one world to the next, I suspect he's very pleased and grateful as well. I have a missive from my sister, Susan, my older sister, who, as you can see, was unable to be here, and kindly, rather than have me explain that, she has sent a message to you all. It says, friends, hello, welcome, thank you. We've had only 2 daughters, and I see just one, you may be whispering one to another. This is his memorial, for Pete's sake, and where the heck is that firstborn female child, you may wonder. Well, I am at home in Colorado. There are a couple of things out here that are out of my control, yet need my focus and attention. The first is, as you may have heard, much of the state of Colorado is on fire. 9 major wildfires, tens of thousands of acres of flames, close to 600 homes in cinders. The evacuation boundary for a brand new fire is knocking on my southern property line. The heat, smoke, and wind have been brutal for weeks. Pasture animals are struggling, and it would be unwise and dangerous to leave this tinderbox unattended, even for a couple of days. The other first is that my beloved wolfhound, Finley, there's a picture on the table of Susan with the wolfhound, and there's a footprint of Finley. My beloved wolfhound, Finley, is wobbling through the latter stages of lymphoma. I have promised him that I would not go anywhere, that he cannot go with me, and he's not strong enough to make the trip to Hanover. If he were a pocket dog, this might be different, but he's not, and he's counting on me. Besides, the man with the pocket full of milk bones, Weem, would be furious. Yes, he did get furious once, if I failed to keep my promise to the royal hound. Thank you for being here today. Each of you has had an important impact on Weem's life. I know that he would wish all of you, as I do, lots of good health and happiness, and thank all of you for being my dad's friends. Anchors away, Susan. I have a message from another person. I have a message from my son, Alexander, who wrote to say, I am in California, working in the film industry, and Papa always supported my efforts, and I know he approves of my being there, as he always appreciated my work, even though I don't think he could hear any of it. I just want to say that I want to thank Papa for having supported my high school, the Bridge Academy, a school for children with learning differences, and helping to make it thrive. Alexander. And find more things one and another. I have a message from his longtime and good friend and financial advisor, bless her. She wrote to Susan and me that says, Dear Joanne and Susan, since I'm unable to attend the remembrance service for Weem, please accept these remarks as my contribution. She's a long-time, faithful, faithful friend. Weem made me feel part of his family early in our 10-year relationship. We enjoyed many philosophical chats, and we plowed through as many tough conversations as were possible. He always knew his own mind, and when a decision was required, he preferred the path that was kindest and most thoughtful. He deeply loved and admired Joanne and Susan. He was so proud of his daughters and their different strengths, and he adored his 4 grandchildren. Weem was a marvel at getting where he wanted to go, whether it was Paris, Colorado, New Jersey, or back home to Hanover. He truly enjoyed traveling, and particularly driving. He was unfailingly polite to everyone. He was a creative thinker. He was truly a unique individual. I will always cherish our friendship and remember him fondly. Sincerely, Judy Goodnight. The thing I wanted to share with you is this, that, Dee and Rosalind and Megan can attest to this heartily. In Dad's final months, well, for years, but in his final months, in his final weeks, in his final days, there were two things that he said over and over and over to everyone all the time. I love you, thank you. He said it always. And Dad's right here, right now. And right next to him is this framed saying he's had next to him for a long, long time that says, if the only prayer you ever say in your life is thank you, that would suffice. I think that was his abiding way of being. And this struggling balloon right here came with a bouquet of flowers from all the pets in the family, which Dad duly and immediately named Faithful. And Faithful stayed with him on his bed to almost his last moments. Because there you are, someone who was faithful and thankful, who just always said, I love you and thank you. Dad and I often would have a conversation where he would try to list everyone to whom he was grateful. And if I started, I would not be able to stop, of course. But there were always his caregivers. Always, always. First and foremost, for which I am so grateful, as you might expect, who made his later years more valuable than they could ever have been. And Dad and I had a conversation shortly before he died, which he did, by the way, very intentionally. He was very, very, very ready to go on. He was so ready, he put it on his calendar. It will surprise none of you to discover that he was late for the date he put on his calendar. But he did. He was very ready to go. And he said, I think I'm going to pass away. And I said, yeah? And he said, I said, what if we said pass on? He said, that sounds better, because we agreed that pass away, that moment sort of made him feel like old cheese. But pass on seemed good to him. He was ready to pass on to the next adventure, which reminded me, and I will do my best here. I'm going to read you the tail end of a story, and then I have one prayer I will read. A prayer that I'll say now comes from so far back in all faith traditions that we can probably all claim part of it as our own. We have a faith tradition or we don't. It's part of our culture from the start. I don't know how many of you know this book, Time of Wonder. Dad would read this to us and read this to us and read this to us. It's about two girls and their father and mother on an island, just on an island for the summer in Maine in the 50s. And he would read it, and I can hear his voice. I read it to him one night, just because I could. And there's a hurricane in the middle of it. There's a hurricane in the middle of the story, and that's kind of what it's about. You're living on the island, and there's a hurricane, what they say, it's a-coming, she's going to blow, there's going to be some weather, with the next shift of the tide. I remember it, I get goosebumps when you read it. But the end of the book reminds me so much of Dad's mindset at the end of his life, and I will tell you that there are some flowers out here which bloomed only a couple of times some years ago that reminded him of his mother, and there was a hummingbird that would come and be in those flowers, and I didn't even think of that till I picked this up again. But the book ends after the hurricane is gone and summer has passed. The end of another summer, time for you to leave the island. Goodbye to clams and mussels and barnacles, to crows and swallows, gulls and owls, to sea urchins, seals, and porpoises. Time to reset the clock from the rise and fall of the tide, and the come and the go of the school bus. Time to pack your bag, put in a few treasures, some gull feathers, a few shells, a book of pressed leaves, a piece of quartz that came from the crack in the old rock by the point. And children, don't forget your toothbrushes. Then, all aboard, and they get in the boat to go back to the mainland, around Deer Island, past Birch Island, Pumpkin Island and across Agamogan Reach for the last time this year. Take a farewell look at the waves and the sky, a farewell sniff of the salty sea, a little bit sad about the place you are leaving, a little bit glad about the place you are going. It's a time of quiet wonder. For wondering, for instance, where do hummingbirds go in hurricane? So I'm going to close because for those of you who don't know, I am an Episcopal priest. And you cannot get a priest into a room full of people without a priest saying, feeling she's got to say something. And whatever it is, the last part of it has to end with an amen. So this is an ancient prayer that we'll say on behalf of God. We seem to give them back to you, O God, who gave them to us. Yet, as you did not lose them in giving, so we do not lose them by their return. Not as the world gives do you give, O lover of souls. What you give you do not take away, for what is yours is ours also, if we are yours. And life is eternal, and love immortal. And death is only a horizon, and a horizon is nothing save the limit of our sight. Lift us up, so that we may see further. Cleanse our eyes, that we may see more clearly. Draw us closer to yourself, that we may know ourselves to be nearer to our loved ones who are with you. And while you prepare a place for us, prepare us also for that happy place, that where you are, they are, we may also be forevermore. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you for being here. Please enjoy some food and drink and one another.